Alright, hello. This is gonna be a bit of a different video. It's gonna be one of the old style videos where it's very basic. That's because I am showcasing the concentrated arrow changes. So the concentrated arrow augment got buffed this patch by quite a bit. It got some increases to its damage, and now actually holding the shot will give you red crits, which is really nice. So besides that, the concentrated arrow augment also has 20% base status chance, and its explosion deals blast damage. So now you can get some blast procs with it. The cost of it was after 5 meters, you don't have line of sight. So it has line of sight checks after 5 meters. If somebody is behind a wall, it's not gonna hit him, which is fine. You can just drop the range by just a bit instead of having a whole 280%, and that will be just fine. So overall, this is still a huge buff for it. Line of sight checks do not really matter when we're talking about 15 to 16 meters of range, and especially since this can actually be shot directly on enemies' heads, which they will all be on head level, so stairs and everything, they don't actually matter for your line of sight check like other abilities do that sometimes stick to the ground or they just don't work. Like Nova's antimatter, for example. So this is really nice. This is gonna be the build. Arcane Rage is here because we will be headshotting most of the time, and it will give us the extra damage. And Crepuscular is obviously here because of the final critical damage and the bit of extra strength. So the build itself on the Artemis bow is gonna be this one, and we're using multi-shot because sadly, even after the update, this mod doesn't actually work on the explosion at all. It only works on the initial hit, so that is pretty bad. But we can do longbow sharpshot, which is pretty much a godsend for this build. And with the purple swords that I have, because I added purple swords to Ivara for extra primary electricity damage, you can get free electricity damage onto the bow, which once again, because you have status chance, you can actually trigger both the slash proc from internal bleeding because the bow deals guaranteed impact status effects to everyone caught in the explosion. So this is 70% chance for slash. You have multi-shot after, so hurt with multi-shot, life elementalist, and then you have electricity procs working as well, and then you have the blast procs working on top of that, and the result tends to be really crazy. Other than that, you don't actually need any elemental damage. And even if you don't have the electricity swords, this still goes absolutely ham, but the electricity swords can actually push it to kill pretty much anyone at any level through fodder enemies, and that is actually extremely viable in my opinion. Roar is here because I figured out that I probably didn't need Trinity's Well of Life anymore. Usually I have Well of Life here, but even without it, I can still do work, and you will see that I don't really need Roar, especially for enemies that are in base hill path. And you may be like, okay, but your percentage of Roar is super low, like 23% doesn't do anything. Well, it's actually not 23% because we have energy conversion and we have Arcane Crepuscular, so it's closer to 50%. And that actually does something. So, enough yapping, let's go see how the build looks in action. Overall, this is an anti-Grenier build. You can build it anti-Corpus, anti-whatever you want. But I'm gonna do Grenier because, I hate the Grenier. We all know that if you don't hate the Grenier, you're just a weirdo. If you don't have all the Bane of Grenier modes, what are you thinking? You hate the Grenier here. Alright, so, important thing. So, I'm gonna put an energy pad so I can showcase this, so you don't need to do that. If you use Prowl, and then you use Artemis Bow, you don't actually get Spectral Serration. So you see top right, there is no Spectral Serration. But, if you use it that way, you get the extra strength from Arcane Crepuscular, which stacks onto the bow. So this means that your combo and the way you need to do the abilities are as follows. So you do Moderate Sling Strength, obviously, then you go into Prowl, then you activate the bow, then you leave Prowl, and then you activate Prowl again. And now, Spectral Serration actually triggers. So now we can be on bow permanently, and the only thing you need to know is that because your bow can snapshot any type of strength you have, when we get an energy orb, we will just do the exact same. And as you can see, the damage goes nuts. Even now that I don't really have anything, damage crits on that. So now I have an energy orb. You know, sling strength again. Deactivate Artemis bow. Activate it again. Now that's snapshots the strength from energy conversion, and that's even more damage. So you can see even without roar or anything, as long as you can hit a headshots, this can go really hard. And you know, obviously the initial damage is really cool. The AoE damage is really cool, and then there is dots as well that can be extremely amplified by things like roar. So even without longbow sharp shots, you know, this can go really cool. Really, this can be very, very cool. So I'm gonna go to an area that is a bit more open because, you know, as you can see there, the LOS limits are actually hurting me a bit. And obviously, if you can't reliably headshot, you can abuse Magus Lockdown, you can abuse other stuff to reliably headshot, and that is gonna help a lot more. But I like just taking my time and trying to headshot myself. Overall feels very nice. This is a really bad tile set, by the way, for kills per minute, but it still showcases just how insanely strong this augment really is. No? So this, for example, I didn't have sharp shots on that shot, and that guy was an Xmas. And even without sharp shots, it is strong enough to absolutely demolish the Xmas enemy. So sharp shot, in case you don't know, it might say 300% damage and dead hit might say 360, but sharp shot is actually multiplicative and dead hit is actually additive. So you have every reason to go sharp shot instead of dead hit. It is extremely funny. But yeah. LOS be damned, you know, it has weird AoE. As you saw, I hit that guy, I killed people up there. I'm not really sure how it works at this point. Miss, hits, and, you know, all dead. So, yeah. Very interesting. Very weird. The hell, like? Yo, these guys want to, like, get down here or something? So we can talk? I'm down to kill them, but, you know, they have to get here. There. That's way better. Obviously, there is still downsides. It's a bow. So sometimes you can just miss. And obviously, if you're in a squad, it's gonna be way, way harder to use a build like this because you have to hit headshots. And having to hit headshots in a squad, you know, your squad is not gonna wait for you to actually hit that headshot and do the damage. So you gotta just do it on your own, man. It's a really good build on your own. And especially if you can somehow pair it with other stuff. For example, you know, if you want to do Void Cascade with Ivara, you make a build that you move around with Operator and just stay in Prowl while killing everybody with this in Void Cascade. It can be really good, man. Like, this is a lot of AoE. And as I said, Roar is not needed for the damage, clearly. It might be needed for those higher levels, but, you know. Obviously, my strength percentage is really low, and since Concentrated Arrow, the base damage of Artemis Bow scales with strength, it can go a lot harder if you actually put more strength into this. Like, I've seen upwards of 100,000 base damage onto the actual arrow, so... Well, without Concentrated Arrow. With Concentrated Arrow, that's still, like, 10k. Which is quite a lot, not gonna lie. It wants to be weird. But yes, back before the buff, you could tap fire it and it would still do this, but now you get even more damage by holding it, so... Not sure. It's weird. Like, before you would just keep doing this over and over. And it still works. If you want to do, like, high kill per minute, so you just stand in the hallway and you just keep doing this. You know? It doesn't really matter. But... the damage is a bit crazy now. So I'm gonna wait for Acolyte real quick, one-shot him, because I know I will one-shot him, and then we're gonna be done. And hopefully I don't get violence, because that will be very sad. That is so beautiful, man. So yeah, Concentrated Arrow, after the changes, really, really good. Ivara is still in a nice spot when it comes to doing stuff, and still probably the best survival frame. So at least she has that going for her. Like, I don't think anything can stop her from being in a survival forever. Especially now that you have Konkaro and it's this strong and you can actually one-shot him. So we get Angst up there for some reason. And they're shooting her. And she's hitting me into it. Baby, come on. Why you do that to me? Just be simple, stand in one spot and let me kill you. Oh, my booster ran out. That is disaster. Anyway. So yeah. There will be more videos coming in case you're wondering. Like I have a really good Daikyu video coming because Daikyu Prime, in my opinion, by far the best thing to come out of this Prime Access. It is ridiculously strong. And I did a level cap with it, and you're gonna see the results. It might be one of the best disruption weapons, if not the best disruption weapon in the game. And yeah. If you were on the stream while I was doing that disruption mission on stream, you already know what's coming, but just the IQ Prime, it goes so hard. Anyways, I think I'm gonna finish the mission. I don't see a reason to stay. I think point is proven. Even if I get like more tanky enemies, it's not really gonna matter. And yeah. Having complete freedom while doing this, as long as you do the sequence right of using the abilities so you get Spectral Serration, then you're fine. Also, for some reason, I still have Spectral Serration. Can I... wait. It says that. Yeah, no, Spectral Serration is triggered. So yes, Ivara is still broken as hell. That's great. I get Spectral Serration while being visible. Because, yeah, that works like that, I guess. Epic. Very awesome. And also, you're still squishy, so you gotta be careful if you're not invisible, but it doesn't matter. Anyways. Interesting bug. Very interesting bug. I had to test it. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to drag the video for longer. I just had to test it. There is no way like you are seeing Spectral Serration top right while being visible and you just don't test it. Right? I'm not crazy for testing that. Anyway, you know, Ivara still bugged, still has a lot of weird things that happening and a lot of UI bugs and non-UI bugs, and you can do some other modding if you wanna go that way to make this even better, and I will explain this now. So, if you want to be even more proficient, for some reason, if you want to go like all the way, you can in fact prolong it. So, here, instead of Vigilante Armament, prolong it, the damage difference is ridiculous. Like, seriously? The damage difference from prolong it and Vigilante Armament is day and night. You can slap this in and the procs just go crazy. On Sim, when I tested this, I hit a 4 million electric proc because I would get like 5 electricity procs on everybody. And yeah, it's guaranteed one shot. But overall, you know, no Probo Stars needed. Not something crazy. You don't need Roar, you don't need anything. Worthy Camaraderie is really nice. Konkaro, Precision Intensify, these are really nice. Arcane Rage and Crepuscular help a lot, but this is also not needed, and if you use Mold Augmented, it might even be better. I'm not very sure, I just think Arcane Rage is a bit more unique. But Mold Augmented is probably better, because this will stack your third ability, which gives you headshot damage, and then it will also stack the Artemis Bow base damage, so it probably is better. But yeah. I don't know, I just think that after the changes, it's very, very interesting. And you can make this extremely, extremely good. And level cap viable. For sure. Like you can probably do a level cap mission using only concentrated arrow, Ivara, and Prowl. And the only thing that will scare you is probably violence. Nothing else. Everything else is nice. So yeah, give this augment a try if you haven't. It's extremely good. And also, if you were kind of unlucky getting Daichu Prime, this is by far the hardest Prime to get out of the Prime axes that we have right now. But I'll tell you right now that this is the best bow in the game, and that the next video will completely prove that, because this just goes extremely hard. So, thank you very much for watching a video of mine. I'll leave Discord and Twitch links in the description, and I will see you on the next one.